This meeting is being recorded and streamed on Millbury Public Access Television, available live on Charter Channel 191 and Verizon Channel 26. And remote participation is available this evening through Zoom. And just looking at the screen, so we have Judy who is joining remotely. There is myself. I see Jen O'Connell, Bill Pratt, Russ Wells, and so we do have a quorum. Hello, everyone. So the first order of business is to talk about compensation for boards and committees. I'm bringing this back up knowing full well that I think whatever decision that we come to for a recommendation probably won't affect next year's budget, unfortunately, because I do believe any kind of recommendation for any kind of change would have to go through town meeting. However, I think there are some things that we can do. So I kind of want to talk about the state of things. And so as it is today, when it comes to the salaries for boards and committees, they come forward with those just as Karen brings those forward for the entire budget, and we essentially give our approval like we do for any other line. And so that's how the process works today. But I know that when we look at each of those lines, there isn't necessarily a rhyme, reason, or justification for the different amounts, and there has been some question about not from the board, but about the board of them receiving an increase because it's been a really long time since they've received an increase. And I think that any kind of increase for elected or appointed officials on boards and committees, I think that the public would want some kind of justification for why that is happening. And I think that that justification can come in a number of ways. It could be us looking at peer municipalities and seeing what they're doing and determining if there is some kind of formula for that as well. So I kind of want to get everyone's feelings and thoughts on how we move forward. I have thought about different ways we could do this. We could do a subcommittee. The only challenge with a subcommittee is that even without a quorum, if we're discussing the financials, we would still have to post, the subcommittee would still have to post meetings, and those would be subject to open meeting law. The other option is that there could be a mandate that we all do individual research and then on our own and not discuss it over email, and then come back together as a group to discuss what we have found, and then come up with a plan of a recommendation that could be a warrant article. And then, of course, there is if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. And then we kind of just, continue on as we have been doing in approving any kind of changes for salaries, and the boards and committees would bring those to us. So I'll open it up to discussion if anyone has any feelings or thoughts about this.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Madam Town Manager, do you have any background as to when the compensations were last reviewed and what was done with them? Has this been years? Obviously before your time, but I'm wondering what's the background, how long it's been since anybody's looked at the compensation for these various boards?
So Russ, I do want to kind of indicate that we look at them every year, right, when the budget is presented to us. Right. And so the boards themselves are the ones who set their compensation through a vote, and then they, I don't know necessarily if it is a vote, but it does come forward in the spreadsheet that Karen and the finance director provide to us. But I think that those boards and committees that are compensated probably feel that it's never the right time or climate for an increase. And so General Connell, I don't know how, have you ever seen increases come through?
No. I was just thinking about that. I think in the 13 years I've been on, I don't think the school committee has changed at all. We might have gone up, we definitely went up on the moderator. I don't think The Board of Selectmen might have gone up slightly over time, but like maybe once in all the time that I've been on. And I think what really precipitated it, like, we look at it all the time. A few years back, I don't even know if the current town manager was with us at the time, the Board of Health came and wanted a rather significant increase in their stipend, and we shot it down, comparing their number of meetings and whatnot to the school committee and to the Board of Selectmen, and saying that they were out of line with the boards that were meeting more regularly. And then someone, I believe it was Christo, brought it up at town meeting a couple of years ago, and said that he thought that, the boards should all be reviewed. And truthfully, looking at the boards, like that meet all the time, with school committee, Board of Selectmen, probably should earn more money. There's no question. I haven't done a study against the other towns, so I don't know. And short dollars, right? I mean, the budget's 60 million. If we pay an extra 10 grand, it's certainly not gonna break the bank. And I'll get filleted for saying that later, because someone will make a comment about 10 grand. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not, it's nickels, right? But I think the larger question is, how do who determines whether or not a board is compensated? And then who determines what the compensation should be? And I think that was kind of what was behind putting this whole potential committee together. Because I think at the time, I think you even mentioned it at town meeting about the finance committee, right? The finance committee doesn't get paid either. And clearly, there's no one in this town that serves on a board for the money. Back in the day, when I was young, many, many moons ago, members of boards used to receive health insurance. Depending on the board, they were eligible to be on the town health insurance and benefit plans. So that was definitely an attractive thing for people who were looking to run, but that was disbanded over time as health insurance costs started to rise and whatnot. But so it really hasn't ever really there's never been like a study to say, how do we compare to other towns? Not in the 13 years I've been on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just to be clear, the process is that boards that are being compensated now can vote to increase their compensation, and then it has to come through the finance committee
And we would make a recommendation.
and then go to town meeting.
Correct.
So it isn't that they can automatically increase their compensation. It's a process that has to be followed.
At the end of the day, it falls to it falls to town meeting to make
Town
the
meeting.
decision.
Yes, okay. I just want to make that clear, okay.
Yeah. And Jen, you had mentioned that I had talked about the finance committee not being compensated, and I wasn't necessarily trying to advocate one way.
Oh,
or
no,
another.
I wasn't trying to
think
infer that you were. I'm just saying that you actually brought it up at one point.
I did, yeah,
Really?
because it's, we are a committee, and I feel like a lot of the words and bylaws and whatnot is kind of absolute for a group, and I always kind of want to make sure that we're careful of that language, because what that means is if we kind of blanket say that committees all get compensated,
Right.
then there's that possibility that, there's one currently that us, and there's, others that are
Most
not.
are not compensated, and that's the thing, is I
Yeah.
think over time, some of that compensation went away. And I have a feeling that there are even some boards that, because of their structure, cannot be compensated, I would
Isn't it,
venture a
that
guess.
elected boards get compensated? Isn't that the rule? The elected boards,
I think that was might have been the rule, because if I think of the boards that are compensated, it's Board of Selectmen, School Committee, Board of Health.
planning
I don't think the planning board is
board,
compensated.
they're elected.
They may be, but I don't think the Board of Appeals is, and they're
appointed.
elected.
They're appointed
They are?
by the town manager,
I thought
right?
There is a list that we had received, and I'm gonna have to dig through my
Yeah.
email that talks about.
It was sent by the
all-
finance director.
Yep.
It was a really thorough list.
Yeah.
But just listening to the conversation, there's a pretty clear lack of clarity.
Right, absolutely.
Right? And so I think the idea of doing some research and establishing a clear set of standards around pay not only helps organize the board and committee question, but it can also help to establish criteria for any kind of compensation decision. some of which would not be relevant to us, but some of which it might help with discussions that come up either at town meeting or in budget hearings about the why of something.
Right. I also want to ask the town manager what her feelings are on it, because obviously it's not an issue, it wasn't an issue last year, and we don't know if it will be an issue this year. I think what we're trying to do is be proactive. At some point, someone will ask for compensation, and how will we deal with that? It would be a lot of work, obviously, if we were asked for it during, the budget season. I think it makes sense to kind of, figure out a plan, so that way when it does come to us, we're able to answer.
So I agree that this needs to be looked at, and I know we cannot be the only community that has had this conversation. I would like the opportunity to reach out some of my colleagues in some other communities and see if they have done something, or if MMA has already done this, so we're not reinventing the wheel. Because I just can't believe that we're the first people listening to Jen kind of give a historical perspective is helpful. I don't think I was around 3 years. I've been here for just over 3 years. I don't remember
I
the
don't think you were.
conversation about the Board of Health, but that doesn't mean that didn't happen in year one, and I just don't, I was in a different role. Maybe I'm just not remembering that. But I think it's helpful to hear that it doesn't sound like there's been any kind of a real study. And I agree with Bill. I think there needs to be some, as we're doing this, there needs to be just some really clear parameters, so that if and when this gets to town meeting, that it's very well thought out, that, there's, it's really clear how we as a collective put this information together for town meeting to be able to consider it in a fair and equitable way. So off the top of my head, I don't remember the analysis, and I apologize, I did not have a chance to look at some of the materials, Charles, that you had put forth that Jennifer had provided to us last year, which was very helpful, and I will look at that again. I guess way I feel is, we haven't even started putting the budget together. I have no way to know as of this meeting, if we would even have the funds. A lot of communities are looking at, Proposition 2.5 or, layoffs. So 10,000, to your point, Jen, is a drop in the bucket, but we could get pushback on that because we don't know what this is ultimately going to look
Right.
like for FY '27. So, I see that from both sides of the coin, but I think we definitely can get some guidance from other town managers. I'm happy to sort of put out some feelers to different communities that I have good relationships with, and just say, have you dealt with this before? How did you put this together? Do you have like a schedule of the different committees and, what they make? That would be helpful. So I'm willing to do some homework and bring things back, and then we can sort of dig into it. I could send it out in advance and see how the committee feels, if it kind of matches what we're trying to do, or if it's like totally out of the realm of what we thought. I just think we need some info from other communities and some documentation, and maybe that would be a good place to start instead of just racking our brains.
Yeah.
Sort of as a foundation. Whatever you want, I'm happy to dig into it, but that's kind of my initial thoughts.
So
I found out today that our health insurance broker is on FinCom in Douglas, so I can reach out to her too to find out what they've done.
That's great.
So the elected town, it's the Selectmen School Committee, Town Moderator, Housing Authority, Redevelopment Authority, Planning Board, Board of Library Trustees, BVT, the appointee there, Board of Assessors, and Board of Health. And that it does say in the charter, compensation, elected and appointed town officers shall receive such compensation for their services as may be appropriated annually for such purpose. So there's language in the charter to support a more broad plan, but it's not saying that that every board has to receive, saying that they may. So at least,
Even appointed.
even appointed.
Yeah.
So, but all those boards are elected, and not all those boards are compensated. I know BVT is, because we talked about that before.
Yeah.
And then,
And Jen, I remember when we were on the Charter Review Committee, we wanted to make sure that that language was strong enough because you just never know what will happen in the future for
Right.
a committee. And we wanted to be able to have compensation for those committees should it be appropriate. So,
right, and
yeah,
to
you're
put a
right.
set number in there wouldn't make sense, because it's supposed to be a guiding document, not something that you stick to.
Right. And I think, from our standpoint, once we do the research and see what other towns are doing, that maybe there is some kind of formula that is in an Excel spreadsheet where someone checks off that, are you making recommendations, or are you actually, like the Board of Selectmen, right? They actually make decisions. Versus us, where we're making recommendations and we go to town meeting and talk about the rationale there. Maybe on this spreadsheet, when certain things are ticked off, it adds a dollar amount to estimate what that compensation should look like.
But I think part of the thing, and I think you included it, that they talked about at town meeting was appointing a board, like a committee to review it, not just the finance committee, but that it would be like an amalgam of citizens that would help to decide that.
Yeah. So that was the thing that I was struggling with because we had an informal conversation with some folks to talk about this. And you're right that we were talking about a group of individuals, like creating some kind of compensation committee. But as I looked more into this, my research shows that it is really the task of the finance committee to do this work.
Okay.
And
Well, I think
so-
we're probably the most, I don't want to say unattached, we're the most objective board, probably. We don't have any skin in the game, right?
Right.
Other than our tax dollars.
So I feel like I'm back to the finance committee doing the work. Again, I mentioned, the subcommittee, but, as I did some more research about subcommittees, that is additional meetings that have to take place through the open meeting law. And obviously, we want to continue to be transparent, but if we don't have a subcommittee and we just do this through the finance committee, we can individually do our research and then bring it back together, open meeting law style, have these meetings and be transparent for the community so that way everyone knows what the process is all the way along. And I think it would be easier for people to follow without having two separate meetings, right? I got to watch the subcommittee meeting if I want to focus on this, and then I got to watch the finance committee meeting. If we just have it in one meeting, I think that will help with the transparency part.
Sounds
I
good.
don't know if folks are in agreement with that.
Yeah, no, it sounds good.
Okay. So I would say that going forward, Sandy, one of the open agenda items we should include on here is taking an opportunity to talk about this, whether it's 10, 15 minutes, updating everyone on what we've discovered. And as we've discovered information of how other towns are doing this, we can document that and then come up with a plan that works for Millbury. Because obviously, as we look at this, we're going to encounter towns that are larger and in different regions. And I think that we can probably focus on some towns in our area. I think the list that I had put together, I had said towns like Auburn, Grafton, West Boylston, and Northbridge are close in size to Millbury, as well as proximity of being in the Blackstone Valley, well, except for West Boylston, I think it's in the Blackstone Valley. So close in size and proximity, but there may be other small towns like ours that are in the state that have done this work as well too, and we don't want to necessarily discount them as well. So,
You know who might be a good resource for that too is Katie McKenna, because she's been in Oxford and now she's in Lunenburg. And you can get two towns right there.
So I already sent an email to Kevin Mizikar, who I worked closely with when I was in the city. He's the town manager in Auburn, but he's very involved with ICMA and MMA and all these different organizations. And I just said, we're looking to explore this. Have you ever dealt with this when he worked in Grafton, Leicester, and Shrewsbury? And also, did he know if MMA, who often does town manager salary studies and that kind of thing, just to see if they have ever done it? So I'll start there. And that kind of, Kevin's my go-to for a lot of things. I'll just start there. He's just very involved in different places and spaces. And I'll see what he has to say. But yeah, I think we can look at some of the surrounding communities or like-sized communities, or even other, it doesn't even, to your point, that's a great place to start. So it's sort of more apples to apples, but if there's other smaller communities or larger ones that have already gone through this process, just be very curious, how did they go at it? How did they justify whatever stipend amount they came up with, et cetera. So I already threw out the, threw it out there. So hopefully we'll get a response and we'll go from there.
That's great, and that's helpful. I think that maybe there's some things we haven't even thought about that
Yeah.
he was going to provide us, and then we'll be able to replicate the questions for the next person based upon what he has provided to us. So,
Yeah, exactly.
thank you for that.
I think it's good to get ahead of it and talk about it now and maybe next month prior to doing the budget so that at least, as the town manager puts the budget together, we just have this in the back. At the end, we see how much it is and can we swing it or not, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Madam Town Manager, have there been any private conversations that you've had where some board members have brought to you their concerns with compensation? Has that
No.
been a topic in the last couple of years?
No.
No?
No,
And
I haven't heard
Russ,
anything
I'd
except for
say-
the Board of Health, that one discussion on the Board of
Yeah.
Health.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, when we got the group together, previously it was, an informal group of individuals, we were talking about this. We did identify that people, weren't really, asking for this, and kind of identified that people do this work not to make money, right? And that the compensation is, more of a thank you for, doing this work and the appreciation for it. I mean, it doesn't, pay the bills. It's a small stipend that folks
Yep.
get. So.
And like a lot of times I've seen, at least on the selectmen's side, that there's a tendency for whoever does it with the selectmen, have a tendency to put the money back into the community in some way. So we've been lucky, the people that have accepted a stipend have been pretty generous with not only with their time, but as, serving on the boards, but also, philanthropically giving
Donated
it
to
back.
charity and things like
Yeah,
that.
different
Yeah.
initiatives in the town, so.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Jennifer had identified in the past was that there are some people who weren't even cashing their checks.
Yes.
And that's not actually a good thing because, the
Because then
money
you have to
has-
sheet it.
Right, the money has been appropriated and whatnot, they just haven't cashed their checks. They can definitely, donate that money back, to the town, but there's a process in doing that. And I think that that's probably part of this as well. We should probably figure out if somebody doesn't want to take that stipend, how they can give that money back to the town. But Bill and I had spoken briefly about maybe this could be part of, for some individuals, could be part of the work-off program for their property taxes if they meet that certain requirement. And so I think that there's the stipend compensation, if they take it, or if they don't take, if they take it, they don't take it, how they can either get credit for the work-off program for property taxes, or somehow give it back to the town, or even a scholarship or something like that. Maybe they put it towards scholarship. Giving people those options, I think, will be helpful instead of just saying, I'm not going to cash it and the town can continue to have the money, because that's not.
Well, you get taxed on it. You're going to get a 1099 or whatever you're going to get, so. So even if you're not cashing the check, it doesn't matter. You've been taxed on it. So you should cash it, right?
Right. Okay.
Like, why would you cash it? I'm going to pay taxes.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, is there any other discussion, concerns about this?
I'll just be interested to see what the criteria is in other towns.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Yeah,
the amount of
me too.
time spent, or the decision-making process, such as a selectman or a school committee versus other boards, what's their rationale for a different compensation?
Yeah.
Because some boards, as we know, Madam Town Manager, there's a lot of work done off camera with a lot of boards that nobody sees. The lights are on, they're working, and nobody knows about it until they come on and we have a meeting. So,
Okay. All right, thank you, everyone, for your thoughts on that. More to come. We need to do the approval of the minutes for our November 4th meeting, so we'll do a roll call vote because I'm on Zoom and so is Judy. So,
Motion to approve the minutes of our meeting on November 2nd?
fourth, right?
4th.
Fourth, second.
yep. All right, so we'll do a roll call vote. Jen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well, and that is unanimous. Great. In any, just to going over to other business, so all business that's not reasonably anticipated to be discussed, I just want to figure out some timelines for some future meetings. Karen, you had some questions about our availability in late December. Do you want to talk about that timing? I know that you had looked at a joint meeting between FinCom and the school committee for late December instead of early January.
Thanks, Charles. So Sandy, I super appreciate this, put a bunch of the meetings from now until infinity, until the end of the budget season, which I appreciate because I think most of us kind of live by the Microsoft calendar. So I just wanted to double check. I'm just reading the email that I had just sent a little while ago to Sandy and you, Charles. There's a meeting. It's in my calendar. It says that it says January 22nd. It just says school committee in my calendar. And I just wanted to confirm, is that the one where the finance committee is presented the school budget? Is that what your understanding is?
That was what my understanding was. Is that
Okay.
that
That's
is for-
early. That's early for the budget.
It says school committee, but I think Sandy had plugged that in, so that's why
Maybe.
I'm just,
So Jen, I think this is their initial. They haven't voted it or anything. It's when Rick Bernard presents his numbers to them, and then they continue for weeks to time that, but it's the initial meeting.
It could be. It's earlier than I'm used to saying. That's whatever, that's fine.
I think Rick and Greg, I'm trying to remember what's on our
Well,
calendar.
they're probably trying to hit that
versus the-
December 15th date for you. So you're right, they probably do have it done.
Right, so I think that the school committee might get a preview at their meeting the week before. But again, it just says school committee in my calendar, so I just wanted to verify that that sounds like the one where the finance committee is invited. And then the other thing is on January 5th, there's supposed to be what we call the quinfecta meeting, which is basically 2 members of the following groups: FinCom, Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee. Where's the 4th?
No, I think you said
That's a
FinCom
try.
twice.
You said
You said
FinCom
FinCom
twice.
twice.
Sorry.
Is it
Board
the
of
capital
Selectmen,
improvement?
Finance Committee, School Committee, and then it's the town manager slash
Yep.
administration, thank you. So that one is scheduled, we call it the quinfecta meeting. That one is scheduled for January 5th. And I was curious if whoever represents the group in that particular space in that meeting could do Monday, December 29th or Tuesday, December 30th instead of January 5th. And I'm not even sure, and is it usually Bill
Bill and me, yeah.
and Charles? Okay, does that work for you, either date?
So, so I can do either date.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm available because we closed the university down for a couple of weeks, so I'm
Okay.
available those days, yeah. And Bill, are you good with that?
I'm just checking.
Okay.
Thirtieth or
The 29th.
29th?
December.
Either one is good for me.
And I think that one could either be at 5 or 6 o'clock. I don't know if that makes a difference. Charles,
No.
it sounds like you're off, so maybe that's better for you.
Yep,
Okay, cool. Thank you for just letting me take a minute to figure this out. It's just so many dates and I want to just make sure I get everything square in my head and my calendar. So I'll poll the other folks and I'll see about the time and which day works better. And then I'll get back to you quickly.
great. Right. So Sandy, obviously Karen will get back to you on those dates. And then for our next meeting, Sandy, right now, I think we should just keep an open agenda item for the item on the compensation for elected board and boards and committees. And then if anything else comes up before then, we'll definitely let you know in advance of that short window that you have to submit the agenda, so.
Yeah, because your next meeting is scheduled for December 10th.
Thanks for keeping us on track.
Yes, thank you. Okay. All right, does anyone have anything else?
Nope.
All right. I'm hearing nothing, so is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second.
And roll call vote, Jen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well, unanimous. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes, happy Thanksgiving, Judy. Thanks.